what time it is? It is time to jump back in. What's up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome back to a brand new Godzilla X Kong The New Empire news roundup. That's right, in this video we will be continuing our chronological journey through the development of Godzilla X Kong The New Empire by covering events from May of 2023. To begin, let's show off some art as always. Kindling 1's Rodan, that's what this is. I don't think I said that right, but this is Rodan. I believe this is Rodan 2019. I loved how moody it was. I loved the hand-drawn feel of it, so I wanted to show it off because I thought it was dope. This next one comes to us from Shin Kaiju Artist, who I believe I've showed off a lot of their art before. And this is Ghidorah and Godzilla fighting in King of the Monsters, from my favorite moment in the movie when Godzilla tackles Ghidorah through the building. I love that the other heads are still webbed onto it, and I love the way Godzilla's just kind of peeping into the frame here. Chris Jahangir shared this photo of Haruo Nakajima holding the 1998 Godzilla, and I love Nakajima's expression. Like, is he disappointed? Is he hateful? Is he ashamed of himself because this is what his legacy became? That picture is so funny. I love it. We have some updates from Dean Devlin. Dean Devlin, the producer and writer of Godzilla 1998, spoke about what a Godzilla 1998 sequel would have looked like, and I smell some bullshit in the air. Devlin calls the decision to make Godzilla neither good nor evil, but rather just a monster looking to survive and reproduce an intellectual decision, and blames that for the film's failure, saying that that was the film's mistake. I don't think that was the film's mistake. I think the mistake was that you forgot to put Godzilla in the Godzilla movie. He says that the problem is that it leaves the audience unsure of how to feel about Godzilla, so that they don't really know what to feel at the end of the film when he dies. And he says that if they could redo it, they would have made it very clear from the start that you're supposed to root for Godzilla and that he's a hero. He says that a sequel to Godzilla 1998 would have fixed this by making Nick and the baby Godzilla teased at the end of the first one team up and head to Monster Island, where they would encounter Mothra and Rodan. I haven't really heard much about this whole Mothra-Rodan thing. I have heard that Godzilla was gonna fight a big bee named Queen Bitch. That was the name of it. He says he feels bad for how things went down for Matthew Broderick because I guess he blamed himself for the film's failure, and Devlin says there's no blame on him. Devlin says the fault is all his, and Broderick never should have had the self-hate, and I totally agree with that. Sony apparently passed on their sequel, so did Toho, who wasn't really supportive of the idea either because they didn't really like the way the first film went, leading to some of those ideas eventually just trickling down into Godzilla the animated show. They were two separate things, they weren't being developed together, so it's not like he had a hand in that show. He says they were separate ideas, but they just kind of played both into the idea of Godzilla being the hero, teaming up with Nick, that kind of stuff, and it was at one point when they were trying to redevelop the sequel considered to be a potential canon point for the sequel, jumping off from that show, but they never really made it that far. He says he has some PTSD from the film and so he won't watch the MonsterVerse films, and I guess I understand that. FYE released an exclusive Burning Godzilla. I totally forgot they did this, but it's so cool. Here's an in-hand photo from Toho Kingdom. Speaking of fun-looking Godzillas, we've got this Spiral Studios Spiral Toys version. New Artisan Dynasty line Godzilla revealed. This is Godzilla 2019. He's all sparkling and beautiful. I love this. Hiya's King Ghidorah 2019 hit global shops online for sale at $110 is the base point. Hiya's Skull Devil was officially revealed, clocking in at 17.71 inches long at 5.9 inches high and $51. It looks beautiful. We don't get enough love for the titans of the MonsterVerse. I feel that's slowly starting to change, but man, where was this thing in 2017? It just looks so awesome. I'm really happy they did this. X Plus's 27cm Godzilla 2019 was reissued. The Rick version features LED lights. It comes in at 10.62 inches tall and runs you $181.19. Pretty beautiful. I really love the LED feature on it. That's really cool. Matt Millard, the artist who's responsible for designing the Warbat, that's kind of his baby, revealed his Warbat statue, which was going for sale in limited supplies, and it just looks awesome, so I wanted to show that off. We have some photos from the production line of Spiral Studios' Queen Mutos ready for shipping. This was the Muto from Godzilla King of the Monsters, and look at how many of these things they mass-produced ready to be shipped out. Did you get one? Comment below and let me know. Speaking of incredible Spiral Studios figures, we've got this Spiral Studios Amalok teased. Amalok was, of course, from Godzilla Dominion. I don't really know whatever came of this. I don't know if they ever finished making it or if we've had any follow-ups on it, but this is the sculpt for it, or their 3D model of it, and it's pretty awesome. Gormoru Island shared more gameplay from the Godzilla pinball game. We talked a lot about that in the last Godzilla news and updates, and you just get to see the differences between the Kong and the Godzilla courses. I really like the Kong course. I just think it looks a lot cooler, but I do like the fighting mechanic on the Godzilla course a little more. I do think they did put a lot of work into those pinball tables. Godzilla King of the Monsters had a Godzilla Battle Line crossover, so they have had the Godzilla 2021 in there for a while now, but now they added the King Ghidorah 2019 and Mothra 2019. I don't know why they didn't add Rodan 2019. I'm pretty cheesed about that. Where is he? But I like that they added Mothra and Ghidorah. I actually really like to use the King Ghidorah in the game. Mothra's okay. She can be pretty OP if you upgrade her enough. KOTM teased the impossible. I think he has the footage, man. He teased the leaked Akira Takarada cameo from Godzilla 2014. You got Ford at the travel gate. That's where Takarada is sitting. That's where Takarada stamps his stamp book. Oh my god, does he have the footage? He needs to release it if he does. Or let's just say somebody should probably leak that footage. Skull Island had a big resurgence randomly. It kind of felt random. I understand why. I think it was because they were trying to do some brand synergy over there at Legendary. They were trying to get some hype for the idea of Kong and for the idea of Skull Island to hype up the Skull Island anime, which dropped this month. They revealed a brand new Kong Skull Island cinematic adventure, basically book minigame, featuring Kong fighting this giant ant creature. The poster's very clearly a Kong Skull Island reference. This is a Kong Skull Island tabletop game. Again, it's like, why did this not come out in 2017? Why did it come out so many years later? It's a Kong game running you $24.99. It is a 128-page cinematic adventure. Is it like a choose your own adventure book? I don't really understand the premise of it. The story is explorers go to Skull Island and face mysterious beasts with new creatures that we've never seen before. Silver of the Skull is the intro adventure, where players discover a plot that poses a threat to Skull Island that they must help to stop. It seems that according to the timeline here, Silver of the Skull actually happens in 2015 after Monarch's already on the island. Monarch, of course, sets up their settlement in 2012. It is nice to see that there is a Skull Island timeline, but I kind of have a feeling that the guys who did the anime have never seen this and have no idea what any of these things would mean. But it seems that Kong was originally born back in the 1600s, according to this, which is pretty interesting. There's also this picture of a singing ant, Valkyrie, which was revealed. It's killing one of the deer on Skull Island. It's pretty big. I'd probably guess that thing's like 20 feet. Those seem to be the ones that Marlo was talking about in Kong Skull Island. That wasn't the only one, because Kong Skull Island, Isle of the Damned, and a Pacific Rim Dominion of Iron Kickstarter campaign going on to kickstart another set of these kind of adventure game type things. It was two games, a double feature tabletop RPG. It's set a few years after Kong Skull Island, featuring Weaver and Conrad returning with a team of heroes to investigate some cover-ups, with Monarch there to help them. Monarch supporting them. It is a 160-page adventure book. Again, it's like, is it a book or a game? I don't really understand. The US Army is determined to destroy Kong to get revenge for what happened with Packard and all of his men. They head out and attack Skull Island, and Conrad and his team have to go there on the ground in order to stop this and eventually uncover proof of a bat-worshipping cult, which sets up Kamazats in a way. They're humans that live beneath Skull Island, and they've always been there, and they're kind of like these dark, evil Iwi that live under the island. And then kind of have to learn about their legend, which reveals the existence of a creature that would destroy the world if Kong dies. And so it's a big adventure to try and save the day from all of that. A Skull Island ecosystem chart was revealed as promotion for this. I do like that it features the giant dodo from the Skull Island anime, as well as some of the other critters that we've seen pop up in the comic book. As for the Pacific Rim game, it's a Jaeger pilot's first mission against two kaiju. There's a Kyle Chandler interview from 2019 where he's talking about Godzilla vs. Kong. This was before Godzilla vs. Kong was really fully reworked. He's talking about the original plot, which was much more heavily connected to King of the Monsters, as Godzilla vs. Kong was written as a direct sequel to King of the Monsters, and a lot of the Godzilla King of the Monsters news clippings were specifically relevant to that version of the movie, which would have basically touched on most, if not all, of those news clippings. It was going to directly follow up on all of that, but that got thrown out the door. And in this interview, Kyle Chandler is discussing how Apex was originally going to be the organization responsible for building the cities post King of the Monsters, and how there was going to be a lot more discussion about the aftermath of that film. Rumors about the armored Godzilla in the red armor, which eventually became the Titan Tech Godzilla Playmates toy, was finally confirmed to be fake by KOTM. He confirms that it was a hoax and that it was always supposed to be a prototype for what eventually became the Titan Tech. Now, there are a lot of people that I know who are a little more in the know than I am, who do kind of believe that maybe at one point it did factor into the original version of Godzilla vs. Kong. Of course, there were some rumors about a version of Godzilla vs. Kong in which Kong gets killed and then Godzilla gets essentially killed, and Monarch revives Godzilla with this backpack in order to fight Mechagodzilla. That all turned out to be fake. In fact, the Armored Godzilla rumor starter confirmed it was just a big hoax. It was just a big goof and he was just trolling, essentially. That doesn't change the fact that I know a lot of people who still believe it, but they didn't work on the film, to be clear. I do believe that Kong died in the original version of the script, but the rest of it with the suit of armor for Godzilla, I've never heard of that being official. We have some VFX updates for Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. You can read them on screen. Basically, we just got some new VFX studios and people involved with the VFX for this movie. One studio joining is DNEG, which is back for the VFX. I believe they worked on Godzilla vs. Kong. Scanline VFX and Weta FX added GXK to their production slates, so we already knew they were working on the film, but now they were making it official on their websites. KOTM teased that the Iwi will be fighting. I don't know who they'll be fighting in Godzilla x Kong, but they're going to be doing some action sequences. I don't know. Are there going to be evil Iwi that they have to fight? Are there going to be evil Iwi and good Iwi? I'm not sure. Also, the Iwi are not the same Iwi from Skull Island, although they kind of are. They're the ancestors of those guys. I believe they've retconned it. I don't think it's the same Iwi from the movie that have escaped to Hollow Earth. I think all the Iwi from Kong Skull Island died, and then these ones are just different Iwi in the Hollow Earth itself, and they're the original ancestors according to the Godzilla vs. Kong novelization, that some of them made their way to the surface on Skull Island to become the Iwi that we already knew. Skull Island's mysteries being revealed, as the plot description for Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire states, seems to relate to the way the Iwi factored into Skull Island, the way that the Great Apes' relationships to humanity was formed, what really happened to the Great Apes, how they got to Skull Island, all that stuff, and also what the relationship between Scar King and Skull Island is. I don't know if we'll be revisiting Skull Island itself during the film, but it's very possible, given that Scar King leaves those handprints, and there was one on Skull Island, that there's at least reference to the fact that Scar King may have enslaved some of the Skull Island apes, or the fact that he may have killed a bunch of those apes and then left his handprint there to mark the island as his territory. A Kong Skull Island reference that was cut from Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire was that Dan Stevens was originally going to be playing Steven Randa. This was changed to Trapper for Godzilla x Kong. Seems that that character has changed actually quite a bit, eventually winding up on Trapper, basically the dude who builds all the stuff for Kong. I think this was done to avoid conflict with Monarch: Legacy of Monsters, which just so happened to also touch on the grandchildren of Bill Randa, as Steven Randa was originally going to be the grandson of Bill Randa from Kong Skull Island. And while the familial relationship is a lot more clear there, I really liked the storyline that was told in Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. I thought it was really wonderful. We have a Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire writing update, so it now credits people like Michael Dougherty and Zach Shield, whose old ideas have been reused and reworked into this movie. Material from King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong that was never used in those films is now being brought back into the New Empire and being developed there, so that's why they're getting some writer credits, although I don't think Michael Dougherty specifically returned to help out on this movie. I don't really know why he would, considering all the things he really contributed to GVK wound up getting cut from the movie anyways. Godzilla x Kong was originally slated to release early in several territories by one single day. I don't know if that's still the case, given the fact that they've changed the film's release date from March 15th to the 29th. KOTM teased that Scar King is not the biggest threat in the movie, although he is the main threat in the movie, and that the current cut of Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire that existed as of May 2023 was somewhere between 120 to 125 minutes, so that was before picture lock. They've cut it down. I think it's a little under 2 hours at this point, which is fine. And then we do know that now, because of course we know Shimo's there, and KOTM teased Shimo all the way back then in May, finally revealing that the COD cameo thing, it was real. That was really the way they introduced us to the new villain for Godzilla in the MonsterVerse. They just put a random cave painting in the COD crossover. What a crazy idea. I will never be over how insane of a way to reveal that was. But I loved it. I thought that was so cool. I still think that's awesome. Alright, that'll do it for this one, guys. I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. If you want to support the Patreon, you can use the link in the description below. By supporting the Patreon, you are directly supporting this channel and making sure that I can continue to make videos like this for you guys. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man out.